As the days turned into months, and the months into years, Prince Siddhartha began to grow into a child whose presence touched everyone around him. From the very beginning, there was something serene about him, a quiet light in his eyes, a peaceful stillness in his movement, as though he carried within him a wisdom far beyond his age. The palace of Kapilavastu was a place of great luxury. Golden pillars lined the halls. Sweet fragrances drifted through the gardens, and musicians played soft melodies every morning. Everything a child could wish for was provided. Yet Siddhartha seemed content with very little. While other royal children enjoyed noisy games and lively competitions, Siddhartha often preferred to sit beneath a flowering tree, watching the way the leaves swayed in the wind. Sometimes he would gently place his hand on the grass, feeling the warmth of the earth below, as if listening to its quiet heartbeat. The attendants in the palace adored him. They would often whisper, "The young prince is unlike any child we have known. He notices things most people overlook." And it was true. One day, while walking in the royal gardens with his caregivers, Siddhartha saw a small bird struggling on the ground, its wing injured. The other children ignored it and continued running, but Siddhartha stopped. With great tenderness, he knelt beside the frightened creature, cupping it gently in his hands. "Do not fear," he whispered softly. "I will help you." He brought the bird to a healer, refusing to leave until he knew it would recover. That moment touched everyone who witnessed it. Even the king, when hearing the story, smiled with pride, though he also sensed a future that might challenge his deepest hopes. Siddhartha's compassion was not limited to animals. He felt deeply for people as well. When he saw a servant working tirelessly under the midday sun, he would offer water with his own hands, even though he was a prince. When he saw sadness in someone's eyes, he would quietly sit beside them, giving comfort without needing words. For a child of noble birth, such humility was rare. For Siddhartha, it was natural, a reflection of the boundless kindness already growing within him. And so, throughout his early childhood, the palace shone not only with gold and jewels, but with something far more precious: the gentle radiance of a boy who would one day become a beacon of compassion for the entire world. As Siddhartha grew from a small child into a curious young boy, everyone in the palace noticed something different about him. He was not only intelligent, but unusually gentle. Gentle in a way that seemed to come from a place far deeper than his age. While other children of noble families played loudly in the royal gardens, Siddhartha often wandered quietly among the trees, watching the world with wide, thoughtful eyes. He would kneel beside small insects struggling on the ground, or gently lift fallen birds back into their nests. Even the palace servants whispered to one another. The young prince, he feels the suffering of even the tiniest creatures. One day, during a spring festival, King Suddhodana organized a grand plowing ceremony, a sacred tradition marking the beginning of the farming season. The entire royal family attended, and Siddhartha, still very young, went along. While the king performed the ritual, Siddhartha wandered to the edge of the field. There, he noticed something that struck deeply into his heart. The plow cut through the earth. The earth exposed worms. The birds swooped down to eat them, and the oxen strained under the yoke. In that single moment, the young prince understood something profound. That life for many beings was full for struggle, fear, and pain. Feeling an overwhelming wave of compassion, Siddhartha sat beneath the shade of a rose apple tree. His breathing slowed. His mind became perfectly still. And without being taught, he naturally entered a state of deep meditation. Those who saw him were astonished. A child so young, sitting in perfect serenity, untouched by the noise around him. When the king returned and discovered the boy in meditation, he felt a mixture of pride and concern. Part of him admired Siddhartha's peaceful nature, but another part feared what it might mean. For deep inside, the king still remembered the prophecy. If he turns away from the world, he will become a Buddha. And so, from that day forward, the king vowed to surround Siddhartha with joy, music, beauty, and comfort, hoping to keep thoughts of suffering far from his son's mind. But even then, the seeds of compassion had already begun to sprout within the young prince's heart, quietly, naturally, and irresistibly. As Siddhartha grew older, his gentle nature became even clearer. He loved learning, he loved listening, and, above all, he loved understanding the world around him. But the king, remembering the prophecy that his son might choose the spiritual path, became increasingly determined to shield the prince from everything that might awaken such thoughts. So, the palace continued to be a place of celebration, of music, games, laughter, and endless comfort. Curtains were drawn to hide anything unpleasant, and servants were instructed to prevent even the slightest sign of sickness, aging, or hardship from appearing before the young prince. Yet, no matter how carefully the king tried, life has its own way of revealing truth. One spring morning, Siddhartha requested to visit the gardens beyond the inner palace. The king hesitated, but wanting to please his son, he agreed, with strict instructions that the roads be cleared of anything unpleasant. The streets were decorated with flowers, and the people stood smiling as the prince's chariot passed by. But destiny had planned otherwise. As Siddhartha admired the blooming trees, he suddenly noticed a figure he had never seen before. A man with trembling hands, wrinkled skin, and a back bent with age. His hair was white as moonlight, and each step he took was slow and heavy. "Chana," Siddhartha asked softly, "what is wrong with that man?" His loyal charioteer hesitated, glancing nervously around. But the prince's eyes were sincere, and Chana could no longer hide the truth. "My prince, that man is old. This is the fate of all who live. With time, the body weakens, the hair loses its color, the limbs grow frail." Siddhartha's expression changed, not in fear, but in deep concern. "Does this happen to everyone, Chana, even to those who are strong and happy?" "Yes, my prince," Chana replied. "It comes to every living being." Siddhartha fell silent. The world around him seemed to shift. And for the first time in his young life, he felt a weight in his heart, the weight of understanding. As they returned to the palace, the prince looked out at the people lining the streets. He noticed the lines on faces, tired shoulders, slow movements. He realized that beneath the joy and celebration of life, there was something all beings shared, an unavoidable truth. That night, Siddhartha lay awake, his mind echoing with a single thought. If aging is inevitable, how can anyone truly be happy? Is there a way to transcend this suffering? And though he did not yet know it, this was the first spark, the beginning of a journey that would one day change the world. As the years went by, Prince Siddhartha grew into a young boy, loved by everyone in the palace. His teachers praised his intelligence, the servants admired his kindness, and the king felt proud of his son's noble qualities. Yet, deep inside, Siddhartha carried a sensitivity that set him apart from other children. He could not look away from pain, whether it belonged to an animal, a servant, or even a stranger passing by the palace gates. One afternoon, while walking through the royal gardens, Siddhartha noticed a small bird trembling on the ground. It had fallen from its nest and lay helpless among the leaves. With gentle hands, the young prince lifted the tiny creature, cradling it as though it were the most fragile treasure in the world. His cousin, Devadatta, who often acted out of pride, approached with a bow in his hand. "Let it go, Siddhartha," he said with a smirk. "It is weak. Only the strong survive." But Siddhartha shook his head softly. "If something is weak," he replied, "is that not the very reason we should protect it?" Devadatta rolled his eyes and walked away. But Siddhartha stayed. He returned the bird to its nest, watching until its breathing steadied. In his heart, a seed of compassion grew even deeper. Another day, he saw an old palace worker sitting alone, struggling to carry a heavy pot of water. Siddhartha ran to help him, placing his small hands under the pot. The worker tried to stop him, for no prince should lift such a burden, but Siddhartha insisted. if we turn away from suffering, he said gently, how can we ever understand life? Everyone who heard those words felt a quiet awe. He was still only a child, yet he spoke with the wisdom of someone who had lived through countless lifetimes. Despite the king's attempts to hide suffering from him, to show him only beauty, comfort, and delight, Siddhartha's heart always found its way toward truth. He sensed, even without being taught, that life was far more complicated than the walls of the palace allowed him to see. At night, he sometimes stood by his window, gazing across the dark horizon beyond the palace grounds. What lies out there, he wondered. Why do people suffer? Why do some live in joy while others live in pain? And is there a path that can free everyone from sorrow? These questions slowly began to shape his mind, like gentle waves carving a stone over time. And though he was still young, Siddhartha's heart was already turning toward a destiny far greater than anyone around him could imagine. The destiny of one who would someday illuminate the path out of suffering for the whole world. As Prince Siddhartha grew into a young man, the palace of Kapilavastu blossomed into a world of beauty and abundance. King Suddhodana spared no effort to surround his son with every comfort imaginable. The prince lived in 3 magnificent palaces, one for each season of the year. Each palace was adorned with fragrant gardens, shimmering ponds filled with lotus flowers, and halls decorated with golden carvings that glimmered in the sunlight. Skilled musicians played gentle melodies day and night, and attendants ensured that the prince never encountered hardship, sadness, or anything that might trouble his pure heart. Yet, despite this life of perfect luxury, there was something different about Siddhartha. He was thoughtful, unusually thoughtful for someone surrounded by pleasure. While others delighted in music and feasts, the young prince often gazed into the distance, as if searching for something invisible to ordinary eyes. Those around him admired his gentleness. He treated everyone, from noble ministers to simple servants, with the same warmth and kindness. And within the palace walls, his compassion was already beginning to shine. But King Suddhodana, mindful of the ancient prophecy, feared that if Siddhartha ever witnessed suffering, he would abandon the throne to pursue a spiritual path. So the king strengthened his efforts. He ordered the palace gates guarded closely. He ensured that no old, sick, or sorrowful person would ever appear before the prince. He filled Siddhartha's days with entertainment, education, and pleasures, anything to keep his mind from wandering toward thoughts of life beyond the palace walls. Yet, even with all these precautions, a quiet restlessness began to stir within the prince. He could not explain why. His life was full, but his heart felt incomplete, as though something essential was hidden from him. At night, when the palace grew silent, Siddhartha would sit near the window, watching the moonlight fall upon the garden. And in those still moments, he felt a gentle pull. A whisper from the world outside, calling him to understand something deeper, something true. He did not yet know that his life was about to change forever. For beyond the palace walls, 4 encounters awaited him. Encounters that would open his eyes and set him on a path that would transform not only his own destiny, but the destiny of countless beings across time. One bright morning, when the air was cool and the roads were lined with flowers, Prince Siddhartha left the palace in his chariot. The king had ordered the streets to be cleared of anything unpleasant, hoping his son would see only joy, only beauty, only the life that the palace had carefully crafted for him. But destiny had other plans. As the prince traveled down the main road, he suddenly noticed an unfamiliar figure walking slowly along the path. The man's back was bent, his hair white, like falling snow, and his hands trembled as he leaned on a wooden staff. His skin was wrinkled, and every step seemed to require great effort. Siddhartha, puzzled, turned to his charioteer Channa and asked gently, "Channa, what is wrong with that man? Why does his body shake like that? Why does he walk with such difficulty?" Channa looked at the prince with a mixture of sadness and honesty. He knew he could no longer hide the truth. "My lord," Channa said softly, "that man is old. His youth has faded. His strength has left him. This is the fate of all beings. Everyone who is born must grow old one day." The prince's eyes widened. "Everyone?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Even my father, my wife, Yasodhara, even me?" Channa nodded. "Yes, my prince. No one can escape aging." For the first time in his life, Siddhartha felt a deep heaviness settle in his chest. He looked again at the old man, no longer as a stranger, but as a reflection of his own future. The prince whispered to himself, "So this is the destiny of all living beings. No matter how strong, how beautiful, or how loved they are." He sat silently for a long moment as the chariot moved forward. The joyful music of the city no longer reached him. The blooming flowers seemed less vibrant. A seed of profound questioning had been planted in his heart. And though he did not yet know it, this was the first step toward a journey that would transform the world. Days later, King Suddhodana arranged another outing, hoping once more to protect the prince from anything that might disturb his heart. The streets were decorated, the houses cleaned, and the people reminded again and again to hide anything unpleasant from Siddhartha's eyes. Yet destiny, once awakened, does not turn back. As the royal chariot moved forward, Siddhartha noticed a large crowd gathered near the side of the road. Their faces were sad, their bodies still, and the air around them was heavy with grief. Curious, the prince asked Channa to slow down. Through the quiet crowd, Siddhartha saw a man lying motionless on a wooden stretcher. His skin was pale, his body unmoving, and the silence around him felt deeper than sleep. A group of relatives stood nearby, wiping their tears. They were whispering prayers, their voices trembling with loss. Siddhartha looked at Channa, his brow furrowed with uncertainty. "Channa, what has happened to that man? Why does he lie so still? Why does everyone weep?" Channa swallowed, realizing the truth could no longer be hidden. "My lord, the man has died. His breath has stopped. His body no longer moves. He has left this world." Siddhartha's eyes widened. "Died? But what does that mean? Will this happen to him alone? Or does death come for all people?" Channa lowered his head. "Prince, every living being must face death, whether rich or poor, strong or weak, young or old. No one can escape it. One day, every life must end." The prince felt a chill run through him, a stillness that settled deep in his chest. He watched the grieving family lift the body gently, carrying it toward the place of cremation. Their cries rose softly, carried by the wind, and something within Siddhartha stirred, a realization that felt both painful and profound. "So this is the fate of all," he whispered. "No matter how much joy or love one experiences, it all ends in death." He looked up at the sky, its vastness suddenly feeling unfamiliar. "How fragile life is," he murmured. "How fleeting." For the rest of the journey, Siddhartha remained silent, his heart heavy yet strangely clear. The third sight had pierced through the illusions of the world. He now understood everything born must die, and no palace, no wealth, no power could protect anyone from this truth. That day, a seed of awakening grew stronger in his heart, a voice quietly asking, "Is there a way beyond suffering, aging, and death? Or must all beings remain trapped in this endless cycle?" That night, after returning from the city, Siddhartha sat alone in the quiet garden of the palace. Moonlight spilled across the stone paths, and a cool wind rustled the leaves above his head. But the gentle night could not calm the storm inside him. The four sights, the old man, the sick man, the corpse, and the wandering monk replayed in his mind like echoes that refused to fade. Each image pierced deeper than the last, awakening truths he had never been allowed to see. Is this truly the fate of all beings? He wondered. Is this suffering unavoidable? Is there no path beyond it? His heart, once light and carefree, now felt heavy with questions. Yet, beneath that heaviness was a strange, growing clarity, like a lamp being lit in the depths of darkness. As he walked slowly beneath the moonlit trees, Siddhartha heard the distant sound of celebration coming from the palace. Musicians played soft melodies. Servants prepared a night of entertainment, hoping to lift his spirits. But the prince no longer felt drawn to such pleasures. For the first time, he looked at the palace not as a home, but as a beautiful cage, a place built to keep him safe, but also to keep him blind. He returned to his chamber, where Yasodhara sat waiting with their newborn son, Rahula. She smiled gently, unaware of the weight he carried. Siddhartha sat beside them, watching the tiny child breathing softly in his mother's arms. Love filled his heart, deep, profound, overwhelming. He wished to protect them, to stay, to live a simple life, surrounded by warmth and comfort. But then he remembered the old man, the sick man, the lifeless body, and finally, the peaceful monk. The world outside did not spare anyone, not even those he loved most. That night, as Yasodhara drifted into sleep, Siddhartha whispered softly to himself, "There must be an answer. There must be a way beyond suffering." And with that thought, a quiet determination took root in his heart. He realized that his life could not continue as before. The world was calling, softly but unmistakably, urging him to seek the truth that lay beyond comfort, beyond luxury, beyond all that he had known. The four sights had done more than open his eyes. They had awakened his destiny, and though he did not yet know the path he would walk, he knew that his journey had already begun.